welcome. Hello, everybody. Warm welcome to our very first virtual Trend Tour 2024. I hope you had a great start into the new year. My name is Natascha Zeljko, and I am the co-founder of CIRCULAZE, and I have the pleasure to host this session tonight. Before we start and dive deeper into today's topic, let me give you a short overview on CIRCULAZE, because we have quite a lot going on in the pipeline this year. So just to let you know, we are intensifying our activities with more frequent formats like our monthly virtual trend tour, which you are just listening in, and also expect more exchanges. These are our interactive and very exclusive expert talks. Also, this we will host at least 6 times a year. And we will also go to our famous on-site trips to thrilling projects within the circular economy that we visit live. Last year, for example, we've been to BMW and visited their recycling and dismantling center, which was a super cool event. And already I can reveal the dates for our biggest events this year. This will be the CIRCULAZE Award Night and the Summit. And we have already dates. This will be on November 5th and 6th, so the award night on November 5th and the conference, the CIRCULAZE Summit, on November 6th in Munich. So please mark your calendars, and we already typed it in the comment section, so you can pick it from there. And we have other exciting news. I can't reveal too much, but we will start a new really great partnership with a great and huge strategic partner. That means we will do more live events, also in-person events within this year. And we will also build a brand new network for sustainable leaders across industries. So this just as a sneak peek, more details to come. The official launch will be on February 19th, so stay tuned for that. But now, back to our session. Let me give a short explanation of what we plan tonight. Today's virtual trend tour is about ICT and electronics. And as you might know, we have 7 categories that we deal with at CIRCULAZE, which cover more or less the whole industry and all relevant industries. And ICT and electronics is one of them. You will get tonight 3 outstanding startups and their solutions. We have invited tonight tozero, Makersite, and STABL, which happen to be all German-based startups. It's the first time. Normally, we are more internationally mixed, but tonight we're here, and I think they're all more or less from Munich also, so we could have done it also in person. But for you to listening in, still good to be in this virtual room. And just to give you an idea what we plan, after each presentation, you will hear from the representatives of the startups, the founders. You're really welcome to ask questions. This session is for you, so please type your answer, your questions, and also comments if you like to share in the comment section, and I will make sure to pass them on to the presenters. And before we dive into the startup pitches, as usual, we will begin with a keynote. And this keynote will provide you some context to the market. It will give you an overview over the key trends and as well as presenting some crucial statistics, facts, and figures. And I have the great pleasure. We have with us tonight Stefan Nilsson. He's the Chief Sustainability and Strategy Officer at Foxway Group. Hi, Stefan.
Hello, nice to see you. I'm actually also the founder of Foxway once upon a time. So that's like 14 years ago.
Oh,
so
wow.
Sorry
for that. That's even more important. So happy to have you here tonight. And you will just perhaps 2 lines what Foxway is, because we had a colleague from you also being our laudation speaker at the award night last November. So Foxway is assisting large enterprises, the public sector and consumer electronics resellers in embracing the circular mindset. because they offer a range of services that empower partners and customers to efficiently and sustainably manage mobile phones as well as computers or other tech devices under the concept coined as circular tech. But this, from my side, a short explanation. So glad to have you with us, Stefan, and eager to listen to your keynote. Please go ahead. The stage is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. And I will try to keep my time as well. So I put the timer. Let's see if I manage. Okay, great. And thank you for the intro. I will not speak too much about like Foxway specific topics, but I will anyway touch upon it because to support the following pitches and startups that you will have. So it can make sense actually for you to have some comments around it. So can you see my screen? I hope so. Yeah. If not, you can interrupt me, Natascha. So basically, I will make a very short intro of Foxway. I will tell why circularity matters. Then I will very briefly touch upon how to create a circular strategy and some learnings and takeaway. And the reason why I would like to share this one is that it has been like a market which are really thriving, and you can see a lot of initiatives and startups and pop-ups which are like in it for the money. They could be actually dealing with whatever, trying to claim the sustainability. Some of them are actually not even profitable, and some might be large enterprises who usually are linear and just want to capitalize on circularity. But I would like to speak about circularity in the DNA and how that can affect the business model as such. So basically, Foxway was started like some 13, 14 years ago. Today, we are a 1 billion euro company, rapidly growing about 23% organically and adding to that some acquisitions, meaning that we have the potential of reaching some 50% growth, some 1,000 customers. And very interesting is that when you build in circularity and as a service concept, which we'll touch upon, it's a very good model for every company that pitched today. We have more or less zero churn. We keep most of the customers that we had 14 years ago. I think we lost 4% of them due to different reasons, but 96% still sticks. And if you come to this one, is that we try to industrialize circular tech. And the reason for this one, as you will see with the battery market later on, or the softwares or whatever areas we're in, since it's a thriving and quite new industry, there will always be struggles about grading, legalization, regulations, quality matters, etc. And I think since Foxway is now the largest circular tech company in Europe, it's super important also to take responsibility to try to make the industry more mature and supporting each other, meaning meeting up in industry organization. I always promote the IREFAs as the refurbishment industry. So that helps. And why it matters is that we do hands-on. And this is an important topic as well, because circularity in the tech industry usually just means that you're buying and selling old devices, ending up somewhere in Asia on some auctions or similar. We actually try to do hands-on, adding value and really having this as the core business. And we have several locations that are doing this one. So that's also one thing we'll come back to later on in the presentation. To succeed with this, to be an industry leader, to succeed in the large enterprise market, which we usually target, and then it spills over into consumers and users. We're working with companies like MediaMarkt or Elköp in Nordics or the large MNOs, etc. Is that from the beginning, and I noticed that one of your presenters today talk about data-driven business, is that you need to know what you're doing. And when you're entering the market of circularity, you will quite soon notice that you will manage usually millions of data points and devices. And this is super important. You need to understand the complete lifetime, the complete life cycle. How is this managed in different markets? What is the future values? What is the carbon footprints? And how you can align this to regulatory reporting. Everybody have heard about CSRD, that most of your the customers that you will face will have to relate to. So you need to build in AI, BI, and software in everything you do. Else you will be lost and it will be trading and you will actually lose competitiveness. So keep that in mind as well. We'll come back to that as well. Try to drive consumer behavior because consumer behavior in the end, like the end user or the consumers are the one who will need to participate in circularity. Neither you're doing software or you're trading in batteries or you're managing something. try to drive the market with educating the market, because we are raised up with growth perspectives. We will see a picture soon in the European Union. They pledged to increase the economy by consumption 2.5 times, meaning 250% until 2050. At the same time, pledging for net zero. I mean, that's a challenge, honestly, to drive that change of behavior, meaning going to a circular economy. You really need to have tools, messages, and education to do that one, else it will not be possible. So why circularity matters? I think this one can be quite interesting to see. This is the world GDP on the left side. Then you have the size of the world population, and I could actually add here, but I don't want to, the carbon footprint by human beings. That's like quite driven, surprisingly, by the fossil era. Everybody understands that, and especially when you see the carbon emissions. And then on the right side, you see actually the pledge by the European Union, and we can see that Sweden has the same, and a lot of other companies pledge to be net zero in 2050. I mean, if you put these two together, it's quite contradictional. And this is absolutely, of course, a fiction. And if you would go to the industries in Europe, you will see that most OEMs doesn't manage to reduce the carbon footprint. And the only way to do that is circularity. There is no secret, universal, God-given force that will drive mining or factories in India or China by anything else than coal or fossil fuels. So we need to use what we have. And this is facing everybody. And you can even see that CSRD, even if it's not like legalized yet, you need to have a decarbon plan to even be credible today. So circularity is the tool to reach it. And you can read any type of reports. This is a German report, that the gaps between the national commitments and the gap that you can see in the different pledges is circular economy. That's the only way to reach this one. And you can read tons of material. The links will be later on in the shared presentations. But this is the only way going forward. And we are in the tech industry. You will meet later on battery recycling or reuse companies. Of course, mining is one of the big ballparks. If you see the tech industry, 80% of the carbon footprint comes from production. So that's the key to target. Production is everything. And then if you can avoid producing and mining stuff, that's how you actually will reduce the carbon footprint. If you go to a refurbished mobile or laptop, you actually reduce the carbon footprint with some 95%. And we can do that in Foxway 3 or 4 times, meaning that the laptop that is used 3 or 4 years could actually be used up to 14, 15 years if it's managed correctly. And it also has social aspects on this one. I will not go too much into that one, but honestly, I mean, to compensate for the lack of mining, they use artisanal mining. I know that several of you will actually later on present the difference between the demand and the excess of future mining. Artisanal mining is the solution for that one. People, in this case, they live about 30 years, like in Congo or whatever mineral we're talking about. They get paid 1 to 3 euros a day. It's not okay, of course. 10 euros per day for shipping, 10 euros per day for working in a factory. And the picture on the right here is Sweden. And I mean, this is a disgrace. We say, please, no mines in Sweden. We want to preserve our nature. But in reality, the electrification and to reach the carbon footprint reduction, electrification is the key. And if we don't do circular economy, we have to accept mining in our own backyard. And this is like, for me, this is very upsetting. These people drive Tesla cars, but they don't like mines in Sweden. So this one will be presented by another one, so I will not go through it, but everybody knows that lithium and cobalt, etc., it's actually a huge over-demand that is compensated by artisanal mining and actually price increases, which will definitely hurt the most vulnerable people in the world. Because it's a question of democracy to have access to electrification. When it goes to AI, access to internet, access to even basic electricity. So this is key minerals that needs to be refurbished and recycled. And today in Europe, we can see that about 17% are actually refurbished correctly. 25% is even not even touched about. And this is the figures of 2022. So if you see GSMA or other organizations, they say that they expect circular economy to grow about 300% in the tech industry. And it's similar for most other industries as well. So it's a huge investment opportunity. But please bear in mind it needs to be managed in a correct and serious way, else it will just be some sort of piggybacking on a booming market and we will be trash dealers. And that's not a big future in that one. And it will not be aligned with ambitions of at least the Green Deal in European Union. We know that the supply chain of this one is mined in the most difficult areas of the world. China, Russia, and Congo, Africa is quite a huge source for at least the cobalt and some other materials as well used in this. We will not go to this one, but to create a circular strategy, and this material you can read later, I always push, don't go on the old-fashioned way, which has been supply chain, looking at the upstreams. Don't go for fun facts like carbon credits or diplomas or useless statements. Try to comply with the regulatory parts, because your customers will be companies in relation to CSRD and the taxonomy. And also try to be curious about science, because we noticed in Foxway that if we only would comply with what customer asks us, we would already be outdated. We work a lot with scientific institutions. We contribute to reports and studies, and we like very much this one. Circular economy can actually reduce the impact with some 80% plus, depending on the type of industry. In our industry, it's about 70 to 80%, meaning double device lifetime. In tech industry, you can actually triple it. In increased utilization, everybody knows that the car is utilized 4% today or 5% in the European Union. If you can use car sharing at a higher extent, you will need less cars. In our case, it's more like to make sure that people are not idling on shelves or in boxes in people's homes. Make sure that you have a proper recycling of material. Use the best technology refurbisher or recycling partners that you can find. We have one of them on this call, and that will decrease the negative footprint with some 80%. And this is the Circular Gap report. We will have a new one on 24th of January, but this is the last one. They point out that if we would go circular in a proper way, we would reduce climate change impact with 145% and the land system change by 190%. And this is the planetary boundaries that is so key to keep an eye on. So never underestimate the importance of implementing circular methodology. And the next picture will be a summary. Be aware of all the regulatory topics that is driving the industries. All of you know this in this call, but it's actually less companies that actually take advantage of the tailwinds here. This is only for the tech industry, which is affecting it. It goes for everything from design, sourcing, manufacturing, use, repair, and all of these topics. So make sure that your company is aligned with this type of initiatives, but don't become depending on them, because they are still post-reactive. So the last comment in my very speedy 10-minute keynote here is that make sure to have a healthy business model, meaning earning money and build in circularity in your DNA. In Foxway, currently more than 80% of our revenue is circular depending, 20% still some sort of linear or must-have business, and that's reduced every single year to become more than 90% circular. Make sure that you consider, even if you sell electricity storage as a service or whatever, software as a service, build as a service approach, because that's the best way to ensure a circular business. And that's proven by several studies that if you use lease or as a service concepts, you will always use long life products, you will monitor them, and you will make sure that they don't get to landfill. Be data driven early. Don't pretend to greenwash. It will always hit you back. It's always regulative now that you cannot do greenwashing or green claims in European Union. Strive for good in reality, be sustainable and transparent. You will always win in the end with that one. Companies in my industry usually have like 1 of 1,000 employees working with circularity, and they want to pretend that they drive circular business because they collect old stuff to earn money. That's not circularity. Try to be real. That's my main message. I'm sick tired of that type of companies in Europe who put a stamp on themselves as circular because they have take-back programs. Follow science and expertise. Actually, trends and current market and regulation usually are immature. So try to be 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead, which I can see that all of you are in this call. And take advantage of regulatory changes, but don't become depending or be depending on substitutes or public funding or even burning venture capital for your business on too long perspectives, because that won't be viable. It's possible to earn money already from start or in an early stage of a circular business. So that was my advices and comments for today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stefan, for this really, really great keynote, and for also, driving our attention to some of the pain points as well, because it's not so easy. It's quite difficult. And so thank you very much for all these very good also key takeaways and for these interesting numbers. Super good. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you soon, perhaps somewhere at one of our events and conferences. You're warmly invited. And now I would like, with this excellent starting point, I would like to hand over to our three startups for the pitches. And first in line, we have tozero. We have here joining us tonight Maximilian Blume, who is the senior business developer of tozero, and perhaps some two sentences to tozero. We had already, tozero is already a very prominent player within the ecosystem. We know you quite well, and we had the pleasure to meet at the award night and the summit, and tozero was awarded twice last year from CIRCULAZE. You were one of the top 21 startups for the CIRCULAZE award ceremony, and you also won the pitch session, the live pitch session on our stage at the CIRCULAZE summit. So congrats to this again. So I'm very happy to have you here tonight, Maximilian. So please take over. The stage is yours.
Thanks so much, Natascha, for the warm welcome. And thanks also very much to Stefan. I think that's the best pre-presentation I ever had for the type of presentation I will now give, because all the points you covered are super valid and support, I think, the business model we have. As tozero, you read here, this is our mission. We want to truly bring lithium-ion battery waste to zero. And why do we do that? I think there's one number you cannot recall often enough, also, as Stefan said. We need to reduce this 50 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions that we globally have now every year. And we won't achieve that only by taking certain measures to reduce our energy consumption, to switch to other sources, and so on and so forth. We also need to focus on recycling, on the materials and on the raw materials side. So this is a very, very critical topic. And if you look at the battery sector, I think you need to really consider the numbers there, because it's a crazy scale up that we need to achieve here. From 2020 to 2040, we need to roughly 40-fold our battery production worldwide. So you can imagine the amount of challenges coming along with this kind of scale up in the sense of battery production. And what's even worse, and Stefan also covered that, we have a huge dependency on different countries there that are not in the European sector, but that are abroad. For example, this type of material here, graphite, you may have heard about this news if you are in the battery sector. Otherwise, I think this is something left unnoticed. China imposed certain export limitations to graphite. And this is a huge and a critical thing, because if you look at the distribution of the key battery materials like lithium, like graphite, like nickel, cobalt, and manganese, you see that, for example, the graphite comes to the most, to more than 50% from China. So whenever this country, also other countries, may decide that they want to restrict a certain export of raw materials, we are left with very, very limited capacities in Europe. And that's why it's so important that we engage early in these kind of recycling technologies and build up what we also call the urban mining sector. So that we take care of the resources that we have in Europe, which are mainly then waste batteries at some point, recover the raw materials and keep that in Europe. Because what we already see is that we have such limited recycling capacity, because again, we were a bit asleep when it comes to building up this recycling capacity, that many of the batteries are removed and then given back to China, also to the US, to Singapore, and recycled there, because again, they were much more early than we were with the recycling of these materials. What you can then also see, and Stefan also pointed that out, if we take, for example, the lithium, what you see on the left side, that if we compare the supply we had 2021 with the demand in 2030, you see that this needs to 4 to 6-fold. And when we see the current prediction of how much lithium we may have with the trajectory of building up our mining capacity, we may end up at half of this kind of material. And then you can imagine what countries like China, also Singapore, Australia, and Chile will do with these kind of resources, namely then rather keeping them for themselves and building the batteries in their countries. For nickel and cobalt, we don't see so much of an issue when it comes to a supply gap, but As we also heard before, when you see the cobalt is mainly coming from Congo, nickel also sourced from countries, for example, Indonesia, that may take a bit less care of the environment that we do, for example, in Europe, then there are huge environmental damages that we can avoid by including and doing more of the urban mining and the recycling here. Because the third challenge that we have is that according to the ramp up that we have for the batteries, we will have a similar ramp up of battery waste, maybe a bit delayed, compared to the building of the actual batteries, because it usually takes 5 to 10 years until the batteries will reach their end of life. But then we will end up with more than 2 million tons of battery waste that we need to take care of. And if you see the number in 2030, these roughly 400,000 tons of battery waste that we need to recycle, you can compare that with the current capacity of battery recycling, where we are in Europe probably at 150K. So there's still a huge challenge in the coming 5 to 7 years to also ramp up the battery sector. Now, what's a big issue in Europe is that the predominant recycling technology, which is called pyrometallurgical recycling, only recovers roughly 50% of the material. So what you do in pyrometallurgical recycling is that you basically put the battery into large ovens, you run that at more than 1,400 degrees, and you smelt the battery, with the advantage that you can have huge capacities, but you can only recover the nickel and cobalt. The graphite, as you can imagine, at that high temperatures is mostly burned, and then lithium and manganese is either lost or it's very, very hard to recover. And on the other side, that's the nice thing for us. There is a push from the EU where they introduced more and more regulations. For example, last year, they introduced this kind of EU battery directive, which says that over the coming years, the recovery rates for these different raw materials need to be significantly increased. So for lithium, for example, you need to recover 80%, cobalt and nickel need to be as 95%. And what is even more important is that by 2031, you are only allowed to sell new batteries when they have a share of recycled material that is above 6% for lithium, and then 16% for cobalt and nickel. And this is something very important. We already see from some companies that they underestimate this kind of regulation, because it's not about you get a certain penalty or you need to pay something if you don't achieve these kind of quotes for recycled material, but you are actually not allowed to sell something. So this is even more important than if you see the ramp up also of the raw materials that we need to early on build up the recycling capacities with the most modern technology that we have. And this is exactly where we come into play. So tozero engages in this hydrometallurgical recycling compared to the pyrometallurgical path. This means that we don't have high temperatures, but we have a water-based solution. So you need an additional step of shredding the batteries, which are then transformed into so-called black mass, which is fine black powder containing all these very valuable raw materials. We put that into our large chemical reactors and can recover all the different raw materials that you see down here: nickel, cobalt, lithium, graphite, and manganese. And then we, of course, want to close the loop with the battery producers and the OEMs here in Europe, but we can also supply these materials to other industries. And this is, I would say, a strength that we have, that we keep a bit of the flexibility and see what materials can take what way in the best possible way. The other advantage that we have, as you can also imagine, if you don't need to run this recycling process at 1,400 degrees, but actually at 50 to 100 degrees, you save a lot of emissions also compared to virgin materials. So there are some more up-to-date estimations that we can save 50 to 80% of CO2 equivalent emissions compared to virgin raw materials from mines, which is actually a huge step. If you see in a car battery, for example, the raw materials accounting for 30 to 30% of the CO2 emissions. When you save these by 70%, you can also save the overall CO2 emissions of 20 to 30%. So this overall recycling has a huge, huge impact, and not only improving our competitive situation. What is our current status? At the bottom left, you see a picture of our pilot plant. It doesn't look so much like a chemical plant for now, because we had to move, as we want to move fast, into an existing building, but we already have 1,000 square meters where we run these recycling activities with different size reactors on a daily basis. So that is not something we do in a lab or on a very small scale, but we already have tons based of batteries and black mass entering our facility, being recycled on a daily basis, and then shipping the materials to all kinds of different countries. And the second thing we already achieved is building up quite a large partner network. So we said strategically we don't want to engage in this first step of collecting the batteries and shredding that, but we rather want to focus on our core competency, the hydrometallurgical part, and leave the shredding of the batteries to many, many partners in the UK, in France, in Poland, in Finland, and so on and so forth, so that the batteries are shredded where they reach the end of life, and then the black mass is shipped to our facility, which is currently located in the north of Munich. Here's something we are also very proud of, not only the two founders we have, but we also have a very international team with people from all kinds of different countries. So we figured early on that we need the expertise from all kinds of different countries combined here in the north of Munich, to build up the best possible processes and scale up the technology, which already outperforms most of the competitors that we see, especially in Europe, also in the US, but also in Singapore and China. So this is a very promising pathway we have here. If you want to know more, please reach out, or I'm also happy to receive some of your questions. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Maximilian. That was really thrilling what you presented. And I do have questions, and I would also like to encourage the audience. If you have questions, go ahead, type it into the comment section. But let's start. What I would like to know, how are new battery technologies affecting the recycling industry? Because there are some coming up, right? So what is your take on this?
Yes, that's a very good point and a question we receive quite often. What we currently see is that, of course, there are new technologies like sodium-ion batteries, where the lithium is then replaced with the sodium. But still, even if you have these kind of batteries, you need other raw materials. So you can still apply a similar technology to what we are currently doing to these new batteries. But also we see that the focus currently is and still will be the next 5 to 10 years on lithium-ion batteries. So we see how long it takes to build up this value chain, to scale up the gigafactories. You see all the news about Northvolt, how long it takes to actually get that up and running. And if you imagine the next 5 to 10 years, the main output will be lithium-ion batteries, then you can imagine another 5 to 10 years of waste batteries will be mainly NMC, the nickel cobalt containing batteries, the lithium-ion batteries. So we see still a strong focus, but of course are also working to recover materials from the newer types of batteries.
Okay, so it won't get boring. So things are changing all the time.
No.
We don't have
That's not
boring jobs. Yeah, I did receive a question from the audience, actually. What are the tozero's targets for 2024? That's interesting, or perhaps you can extend even to the next couple of years.
Yes, thanks a lot for that question. So one key focus for this year is to really reintroduce the materials we have and build new batteries and test that to show that the actual performance of new batteries containing this recycled material is then comparable with batteries that only contain primary materials. So there is one strong focus for this year. We already have very promising results on a smaller scale, and now we will ramp this up. And the second target is, of course, to scale up the quantities. You saw how many waste batteries will be there in the coming years. So definitely we want to go into the hundreds of tons next year, and then over the coming years, at least until 2027, build up our first industrial size recycling plant, hopefully in Germany. So we work hard to make that happen and not move somewhere different, but definitely scaling up in terms of quantities is a large focus for this year and the coming years.
Yeah, super. We also hope that you stay in Germany, because we need that urgently. We need more innovation, and we are already good in green tech, so we have to enforce this kind of innovation journey. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Maximilian. It was super nice to having you here, and we are also excited that you were among our top 21 startups. And I'm personally super happy you have two female founders, which is for this kind of industry not so common. So even better, and you're a very diverse team. So I think you're very well prepared for everything coming. Thanks a lot. Have a nice evening. We would be happy to if you join us for the next presentation. And this means also we will hand over to the next one in line, who is Makersite, who is also one of our top 21 startups 2023. Welcome, Josef Kolonczak, who is the enterprise account manager. Hi, Josef.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. And just to give you a short, perhaps, idea about Makersite, Makersite connects products with deep tier supply chain data So Makersite's product lifecycle intelligence software is the, how we say, one-stop shop for all things regarding costs, environment, compliance, and risk-related questions. And you do this 50 times faster than in the old school way. This is something. So I'm very curious to learn more. Please, Joseph, your turn.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen already?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So what Makersite does, we are a software company based out of Stuttgart, founded a couple of years ago. And what we do is we help companies to understand the products they build, the materials they buy, from the early design stage until the end of life. And especially in the ICT is required to be fast with meeting the requirements, because all these big companies, if you're in the supply chain of Apple, you just need to provide all the figures they need. You know, like it might be compliant things, it might be sustainability things, and all the other companies does it as well. We have it in the automotive industry. All over the place, you are forced to deliver to your customers and get data from your suppliers. What this means for you, if you are in this supply chain and you have tons of products, you need to be fast to outpace your competition. And if you do it the old way, it's going to be very challenging to meet the requirements in regards to sustainability reporting and also to compliance reporting. So you need to change the way of thinking and the way of acting to become more efficient and scale reports in a way that you can have the required information at your fingertips and don't need additional people to do it, okay? And one major part of this is to get to a collaborative approach. Because if we take a look at companies nowadays, we have people doing the same things, getting data from somewhere, manipulating data, analyzing data, reporting on data, and throwing data away. And this is done in several different departments, and these departments aren't aligned at all. So Makersite's idea is, as said, from the early design stage to procurement and end of life of a product, to bring all these people together and have a same understanding of materials, supply chains, and things like that. And this is why Makersite exists. We have been founded 2018, or we went live back in 2018 after nearly a decade of developing a solution. The two founders of Makersite are forever in this industry. They work for the leading companies in the sustainability. And with our fundamentally different approach to help companies, like big manufacturing companies, to make better and faster decisions in regards to more sustainable products, we were able to very quickly win really big logos. And if you think about Microsoft, which is by far the biggest software company, and they already did something in the past, but they turned away from what they did and have chosen Makersite to do multi-million of lifecycle assessments for the products. So if you go on the Microsoft website, for instance, and you want to understand the environmental impact of your laptop, it is calculated with Makersite. So in all these laptops and also the Azure environment, everything which goes into their data centers, the footprint of those hardware products are calculated by Makersite. And all over there, we have a lot of electronics in there. And the beauty with Makersite is that we don't need a lot to give you a proper understanding in a very, very granular understanding of the products you just buy. And maybe you just buy it, build it into your product to sell it to your customers. So we are happy to just get a IPC file, which is a full material declaration, which consists of the material, the weight, and these kind of information. And we can just pull it into our system. And within a couple of seconds, with our artificial intelligence and machine learning, we are able to show you results in regards to compliance. So is this material compliant as itself and in the whole product? Because there are different requirements in different regions. and different weights and all these things you need to take into consideration. At the same time, we can help you to understand what's the cost about the product, because you just can't build a very sustainable product, which is 10 times more than a regular product. No one will pay for it. So you need to understand at the same time, what is the cost of a product, okay? And more of our customers use Makersite to understand the products from their suppliers, to work together with their suppliers to increase or to improve the sustainability of the products they buy. So they work jointly on this sustainability journey. And in the end, we heard about that we are very reliant on China and other countries. So you need to understand your supply chain as well. So we have, unfortunately, the Ukraine crisis. We had COVID in the past. So we all recognize what it means to have a lack of supply. So therefore, what Makersite helps you to do with just an easy file, which is a full material declaration, as I already said, you have a bold understanding of, or a deep understanding of these 4 criteria on the right-hand side. And if we dig deeper and we implement with a customer, what we will do, we will take all the enterprise data which sits within a company. Like you have data in your CAD systems, you might have data in your PLM systems, or in whichever expert system you have data. So we have companies we are dealing with, they have data from the products in 15 to 20 different data sources. So what we firstly do is we bring them together, or we bring these data silos together in an intelligent way and create a digital twin of the product. So as what we recognized is already early days that most of the companies are lacking of data, and therefore we have underneath our technology built the biggest supply chain and material database in theory. So what we've done there is we brought together and harmonized roughly 150 different data sources. These are data sources like EcoInvent or 14 other sustainability data sources. We have things in regards to regulations. We have things around costing. And once we add this data to the customer data, you have then now a very rich or a enriched digital twin of your product, which gives you all the granularity you need as a company to make changes to become more sustainable, and especially become more sustainable faster. And if we go along the journey with our customers, first of all, we had to understand and to measure where these companies are. And more companies need to collect primary data because it's required. So as the next step, we will have the chance to work together with our customers to manage their primary data. So not just collect the data, but at the same time integrate it to what is existing already in real time. And in the end, we will help customers to really reduce their carbon footprint, for instance, by putting Makersite into eco-design, for instance. So having data available at the fingertips of a product designer, that this person can immediately see if this person does a change within the cut drawing, how does this affect my cost or my sustainability score of a product? And in the end, we don't want to be a monolith. We want to integrate into the whole IT environment which exists already. And this is a 2 to 4 years plan, what you can see on this slide here. But it is required if you want to go the path of sustainability. As already mentioned earlier, like we have Microsoft as one of our customers. They brought out a white paper where they describe in detail how they do LCA 2.0 with Makersite. And what they love most with Makersite is the accuracy and to free up people to do other things than collecting and manipulating data. And the other one is Barco. You might all know them from their screen sharing and stuff like that. They went into a data-focused sustainability with us. So if they need something for their customers, they can create a life cycle assessment or a product footprint within just a minute. That's about Makersite. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Josef. Very, very cool presentation. And it's really incredible what you built, or your colleagues also built. Yeah, perhaps one first question from my side. Also, Maximilian already mentioned this topic, the regulations. So what do you think the regulatory changes, will this provide a renewed boost to your business? It already does, but is it going to be more the next couple of years?
Yes, this is what we already recognize. Like, companies can't meet the regulatory requirements. So there is a lack of people doing it. So you need something which does it in an automated way. So we can already, or we already recognize, like, it's boosted. Like things like CBAM, PFAS, all these things bring people to us because they just can't meet the requirements any longer.
Yeah, interesting. So it's not very liked or loved, the regulation from one part of the economy. We hear that often, that people complain, or company leaders complain. But on the other side, it's also offering new possibilities. And for you, it's a business model, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think in this whole sustainability discussion, we just forget the purpose.
Exactly.
Why are we doing it? Yes, it is a business. And yes, we need to do it because we are forced to. But in the end, the idea of being sustainable is like, I have 2 kids, like I have another purpose than just selling software.
Yeah.
I think we need to bring this back. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we talking about it?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. We have this wonderful word in Germany, Enkelfähigkeit. I don't know if it's even used in other languages, but I think this makes it perfectly clear what the greater goal is, and the greater good. Why are we doing all of this? Yeah, and have another question from the audience. Where are the new markets? You're already working with the really top companies. I saw Schäfer, I saw Microsoft. But where are the new markets, and which industries do you expect to be next, crucial for your development?
So we are working globally. We are talking to each manufacturing company literally out there. Automotive is a big part. Medical devices is coming more and more. So I would say the more products you have as a company, the more complicated products you have, the better is Makersite for you.
Okay.
We work across industries, but the main industries are really like heavy manufacturing, automotive, ICT Electronics.
Okay. And another question, is your solution focused on PCF, or do you also have a solution for CCF?
Yes, like I did not mention it, but in general, yes, we do, because the idea behind Makersite is, if you want to calculate your company carbon footprint, you literally just need to add, and that's what I meant with this, literally the same data, you just need to add the supplier data or the procurement data to your products, and then you have your scope 3 upstream. And we do it in a different way than all the other companies out there. We got away from the spend-based approach or weight-based approach. We use a BOM or a artificial intelligence approach, which makes it much more granular and much more accurate.
Yeah, super exciting. Yeah, very well. Thank you so much, Josef, for being here and showing us your business model, and it's very impressive. And hope to see you on one of our upcoming events or formats. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And this brings us to our last and final and third startup presenting tonight. It is STABL. And from STABL, we have here Arthur Singer, who is the co-founder and the CEO of STABL. And to give you a short idea about STABL, STABL is dealing with everything connected to second life battery storage systems. And we will learn the unique approach of STABL and how it does affect the energy transition, and how dramatically this is going to change by 2030. We already heard tonight. So please, Arthur, I'm eager to hear your pitch.
Well, thank you very much for the warm welcome. Let's see if I can share my screen.
Super.
Seems to be working. So hi, my name is Arthur. I am founder and CEO of STABL Energy. And at STABL, we give batteries a second life. And yeah, next slide. Wow. So all of you know that wind is only blowing when it wants and sun is only there at the day, but we also want to have electricity at night. And that's why we think that the clean energy age needs battery storage. And today it is so that the energy prices are rising. There's more and more volatility. And we believe that the things will get even more volatile because there will be an increasing share of renewables in the grid. There will be more electric vehicles. There will be more heat pumps. And the grid reinforcement is slow, and I don't see any reason why it should get faster. And battery storage systems give you a possibility to be a bit more independent from the market, that you have more stability. And our vision is to offer battery storage systems which are cost-effective, sustainable, safe, and reliable. And in doing this, we want to contribute with our small bit to a more sustainable energy world. Today's problem with battery storage is twofold. For one, it's expensive, so there are high costs, and there are risks. All of you know from your smartphone or laptop that the battery gets worse and worse, and all of you have seen the news articles with burning batteries. So if you are a business owner and you can decide to buy something which is expensive and might start burning, usually say no. And therefore, what we see in our talks with possible customers, we still have to do a lot of education. And one means to make this decision easier is our offering energy storage as a service. So with our second life batteries and our energy storage as a service offering, we reduce the CO2 footprint by about 70% compared to first life storage systems. And the upfront investment massively drops because you do not have this big upfront payment, you just have your yearly subscription fee. And second life batteries are available, as I will show in a later slide. This is one of the storage systems which we've built with Daimler batteries here. And that is a study saying, showing that compared to first life, the CO2 equivalents go down by about 70%, which is massive. And if it's so positive, why are not so many other companies doing it? So the answer is because it's complex and complicated. Here you see like a standard, a conventional battery storage system for higher power systems. Here you have the load, it can be a grid, it can be a factory, but it can also be your car, the motor of your car. Then you have in the middle a central inverter, and on the left side you have the battery pack. And the battery pack in a car, for example, usually has 400 volts, but a battery cell has only 4 volts. So to reach those 400 volts, you need a chain of 100 battery cells. And all of you know a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. That means that if a single battery cell is different or has less performance than the rest, then the whole battery pack has less performance. And if a single cell has an issue, the chain breaks, the car is not driving anymore, or the battery storage system goes into a fail-safe stop state. And that's the big point, especially for second life, when those battery cells have aged differently, then you're no longer able to build up those perfectly matched chains. And here you see in the picture, this is the battery pack, as I said beforehand. And this battery pack usually consists out of battery modules. And in each of those battery modules, there is a number of cells, of lithium ion cells, something in the range of 12 to 16 cells. And then those battery modules are connected with thick wires to build up this high voltage battery pack. And we at STABL, we have developed a technology which breaks up those chains. So what we basically do is we replace the central inverter. It's not non-existent anymore. And instead we build power electronics on each battery module. And in doing this, we make one battery module independent from the others. That means that if I have a weak cell in this module here, only this module is weak. This is less performance. The rest can work at full performance. And if a battery cell has an issue in one of the other modules, this one module can be bridged. The system continues operation, and this one module can be replaced in a standard maintenance interval. And the interesting part with our technology is that this battery module can be replaced by whatever is available in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. The new battery module can have another voltage, another chemistry, or another capacity. In our eyes, this is the biggest lever to make second life battery storage systems possible. You take out the risk of supply chain, the risk of life cycle management, because using those old batteries, you do not know what will be available in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And with this tweak and technology, we take out this risk. We are commercial, so our systems are commercially available. Those are 3 examples of systems which we have installed and which are running right now. We have here a system in Berlin with the second life NMC batteries, another one in Zurich, and here it's our currently biggest system with 1.4 megawatt hours running in Switzerland. So if you're interested in battery storage solutions, please feel free to reach out to me. The interesting part is also that the feedstock question. So how many of those second life batteries are available? And if you look at competitors which do second life, if you look a bit deeper, you see it's second use. Those are batteries which have never been in a car, which are virgin. And they can take up this upper part of the upcoming batteries. With our technology, it's possible to also use those really used batteries. So there will be more batteries available and less competition to get those batteries. And if you look at the question, is it at all relevant? Then the answer is a clear yes. There are estimations that about 10 times more capacity will be built into cars than is needed to make the energy transition happen. That means if only 1/10 of the batteries in cars are given a second life, we solve most of our storage problems in the energy transition. This is a study from McKinsey, and the gray part shows how much capacity is needed in the stationary system, and the blue bars are the 2 scenarios on how many second life batteries will be available. And here you see those 2 scenarios, base scenario and breakthrough case, they are in the range of the total needed capacity for stationary installations. So this is a super interesting topic. And the question is why should a business buy a storage system? So for one, if the electricity bill is too high, and also if you have just a PV system on your roofs, there is a high chance that only 30% of your self-generated electricity is used. And also, at least in Germany, there's often the problem with grid connection. So if you want to enable EV charging or heat pumps with a higher power, it could be that your connection is too small. So you could use a storage system as a booster to make more power go. And also CO2 footprint is a reason to use more of your self-generated electricity. With our storage systems, it's possible to go up to 85% autarky rate. That means that you produce 85% of your electricity. And we do simulations with the customer case. So the break-even customer investment is in the range of 5 to 7 years, and you can improve your self-consumption. Here is an example of one of our customers. It's a manufacturer, a family-owned manufacturer, and they use the storage system to peak shave their load. They increase the self-consumption, and they are very sustainable. So second life systems suit their core values. And the system which we have sold to them has a power of here almost 340 kilowatt and almost half a megawatt hour. And it increases their autarky rate to 67%, and they have a break even in 6 years. So the big question is, what do you do with your used batteries? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you a lot, Arthur. That was very impressive. Also, the last example, and it touches the core question always, how to store those energy, even the renewable ones. This is the core question in Germany all the time, you know. So these are really impressive solutions. And yeah, I'm just see if there are here. There's already a question from the audience. What are the biggest blockers for battery storage in Germany?
Yeah, that's a standard question. So here in Germany, we have a lot of bureaucracy, as you might know. So things go slow and slower than they should be. So for one, regulation is complicated because batteries are not being regarded as positive for the grid, but as negative. So imagine you have a big PV plant which pushes at noon all of the energy into the grid. And then you build a storage system next to this PV plant in order to flatten out this curve, to use your energy yourself. Then the grid operator requires you to increase your grid connection so that you can accommodate PV plus battery. So that they don't do PV minus battery, but they do PV plus battery. So that is like completely different than the reality. And otherwise, yeah, grid applications and planning take forever. It's about 6 to 10 months, which is rather slow. So that's not helpful. At the same time, there is this political agenda to make renewables more easier to be put into the field, but somehow in Berlin it was forgotten that to make volatile producers really useful, you need some kind of buffers in between, and batteries are buffers. The plan was all the time to use gas, but with the Ukraine-Russia war, gas is not the best option anymore. So I hope that there is a rethinking happening, but let's see what will happen there.
Yeah, let's see. But you are right. We have to speed up these things. It's incredible, the bureaucracy. If you see what we have to provide in, for installing the windmills, it's really insane. Yeah, this is a very a German problem, and this is a thing we have to tackle. One question, what I would be interested in, or on the topic is, why is it not more common to reuse automotive batteries? Because that would be a very basic general question, right?
Yeah. There are 2 points. For one, there's no standardization, so each automotive battery looks differently. So you have to accommodate somehow for different form factors, different voltages, and so on. Basically that's what we do it. But if you have the different form factors and you want to build up a system which is also usable with other batteries, you have to put in more space to accommodate also other geometries. Therefore, you don't have such a high energy density compared to first life systems, which are optimized to minimum space in their container. That's the one thing. And the other thing which is complicated is the certification. You have to imagine you have automotive certification for batteries and stationary certification. It's not the same. So that is a gray field where we're working right now. So we are doing some recertification ourselves, but there's a big safety question in the stationary world. Imagine you have a car battery which has to be certified for a crash, and in stationary you have like the battery modules have to survive a drop of 30 centimeters. So what's the harder requirement? But in the end, they're not matching, and we either need some kind of matching requirements or the automotive players to also certify for stationary, or a political moratorium to say, the automotive ones are also accepted for stationary applications. Or you need some startups which say, hey, that's a gray field, a gray case. So we just try it out and make it work to the best of our knowledge. And that's what we are doing right now.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot to be tackled and solved in the last years, and you are one of those who will do that. So thanks a lot, Arthur, for joining us tonight. And I would also like to encourage our audience, if you have questions, if you want to be connected to one of our startups and founders we introduced tonight, just reach out to us and we would be happy to make the connection. And thanks to all of you, to the audience also. That was really a great session tonight. I had so much learnings, perhaps just 3 spontaneous learnings I will take away, or key takeaways. It's all about data. It's not new, but it's still true. And circular economy is the only way to reach the pledge. That's what it makes our topic so purposeful. To really go ahead with our circular economy projects and business models. And third one, understanding the customer and his behavior, and to see the worth or the value of education. And this is also something we are up to. So to educate you guys and also to be educated, because you always learn. So thank you a lot. Before closing this session, I would just like to draw your attention to our next upcoming event, which will be on February 26th. It will be also a virtual trend tour. It will be on built environment, which is also a really important topic, as you know, the CO2 emissions are very high, up to 40% in built environment. So there's a lot to solve in this field. Yeah, and we will have, again, 3 startups attending, a really cool keynote. So yeah, we would be happy if you joined us. And we also put the registration link in our comment section. So thanks a lot again for listening in. Yeah, see you soon. Bye-bye from Munich.